the licensees for a short-term rental accommodation located at 2749 East 8th Avenue. Before I begin, I'll just mention that the hearing is being conveyed by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, City of Vancouver electronic meetings, and as such, panel members may participate in person or by electronic means, but I see all three of us are here in person, so I can ignore all that. For those of you who are here in case of an emergency and we need to evacuate the building, I would like to direct your attention to the exits. There are 2 exits beyond the glass doors and 2 to the left. If the glass doors are obstructed, please direct your attention to the 4 exits in the chamber, and please use the stairs. Do not use the elevator. I'd also like to highlight that there's a defibrillator right at the very end of the hall, at the very end there, located outside the council chambers. And clerk, could we just get a roll call, please?
Councillor Montague in the chair. Councillor Ricard. Councillor Klassen. Your quorum, Chair.
Thank you. So we'll start with opening remarks from Robert LeBlanc, Council for the City of Vancouver.
My name is Robert LeBlanc. I'm litigation counsel for the City of Vancouver Legal Services Department. I understand that appearing remotely by WebEx are the licensees, Mr. Wong and Ms. Fong. I'm just going to give them an opportunity to join us and introduce themselves at this point.
Hi, my name. Sorry, we have a flu, so sorry if it's kind of hard to hear. My name is Kevin Wong. I live in 2749 East A Avenue, and here's my wife, Jacqueline Fong. Also, we live here at 2749 East A Avenue.
Thank you. The hearing before the panel this morning is an appeal by the licensees of the Chief License Inspector's decision not to reissue the licensee's short-term rental business license for the 2024 business year. The licensees had previously been authorized with 2022 and 2023 business licenses to provide short-term accommodation at the premises located at 2749 East 8th Avenue in the City of Vancouver. Copies of those business licenses are in the evidence book at pages 9 and 26, respectively. The decision of the Chief License Inspector and the basis, therefore, is set out in the letter of May 11th, 2023. That too is located in the evidence materials located at page 110. And I'll ask that you turn there now. I'm going to review a few of those paragraphs from the beginning. This is a letter dated June 18th, 2024, beginning from the top. This is further to the meeting you attended on June 7th, 2024 with Michelle Hansen, Enforcement Coordinator, and Nikola Borovich, Enforcement Clerk. At this meeting, the documentation you submitted in order to confirm that you are in compliance with all conditions of your short-term rental business license was reviewed. Both during and after the meeting, the short-term rentals office requested additional documentation from you, including updated and additional calendar bookings for all online listings associated to your property. A deadline of June 10th, 2024 was provided. As of the date of this letter, the short-term rental office has not received any further documentation or correspondence from you. In addition to the above noted concerns, an email was sent to you on August 3rd, 2022, noting that to be compliant with the conditions of your short-term rental license, you must only accept one reservation at a time. On November 27, 2023, during a phone call between yourself and city staff, you were advised that to be compliant with the conditions of your short-term rental business license, you must only accept one reservation at a time. You confirmed that you understood, and you stated that you will amend your listings and bookings to be compliant. The city has determined that in consideration of the totality of information, including documentation provided during your audit, as well as information received from the community, the information does not support that you have remained in compliance with the conditions of your short-term rental business license as directed. With regards to your 2023 business license that expired December 31st, 2023, in view of the seriousness of the above mentioned concerns and issues, If you apply for a 2024 license for the noted address, I will not support issuance until you can provide proof that you comply with the short-term rental bylaw regulations and the requirements of the license bylaw 4450. Just to summarize those points, the basis for the Chief License Inspector's decision was failure of the licensees to submit documentation required to satisfy compliance with the licensing regulations, and the ongoing provision of multiple bookings within the premises at the same time in contravention of the terms of the license and the zoning and development bylaw, despite directions from the city to cease doing so. The city's witness in today's hearing is the Chief License Inspector, Sarah Hicks. Ms. Hicks will take you through the materials in the evidence book and explain how she arrived at the decision to not renew the 2024 business license. What the panel can expect to hear is that with the backdrop of concerns about the business dating back to 2022, the city decided to audit and investigate the licensee's compliance with the licensing regulations in order to determine whether the reissuance of the license was appropriate. In the course of the investigation, in addition to the discovery of multiple bookings, the Chief License Inspector determined that the licensees did not satisfy the principal residency requirement for periods in 2023, that the licensees continue to operate the short-term accommodation at the premises in 2024 without a license, and that they continue to do so as of today, despite multiple warnings from the city to cease their business activities. The Chief License Inspector does not support the issuance of the 2024 license. Her decision not to issue the license in the first instance was reasonable, and we submit that the panel should give deference to that decision. Of course, the licensee has the opportunity today to persuade the panel otherwise. Before embarking on the evidence with Ms. Hicks, there are some legal and procedural matters to note. This panel's power to review a business license is set out in section 275 of the Vancouver Charter. That reads, the granting or refusing of a license to an applicant, therefore, and the revocation or suspension of a license which has been granted shall be deemed to be in the discretion of council, and the council may grant, refuse, revoke, or suspend a license without stating any reasons therefore, save in respect of a licensee who by reasonable efforts cannot be found. The council should not revoke a license without giving the holder thereof an opportunity to be heard. Under that section, this panel has broad powers to grant or refuse the issuance of a business license. This is an administrative proceeding. I will remind the panel that the rules of natural justice apply. The licensee is entitled to hear the allegations against them. They may respond to those allegations, they may ask questions of the witnesses, and they may make submissions on their own behalf. That said, I see Ms. Hicks is standing at the podium. I think we can proceed with reviewing the evidence. Ms. Hicks, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Sarah Hicks, Chief License Inspector.
Thank you. Ms. Hicks, I understand you made the decision on June 18th, 2024, not to reissue the business license for the 2024 year to the licensees. Is that right?
It is.
And the evidence materials that have been put before the panel set out the background with respect to the business activities of the licensees and your reasons for deciding not to support the issuance of the 2024 license?
That is correct.
Do you have those materials in front of you?
I do.
Right, I'm going to ask you to turn to tab 2, page 4 of the materials.
Mm-hmm.
This is entitled A Timeline of CF 2023-0060252749 East 8th Avenue. Have you seen this document before?
I have.
And can you explain to the panel what this document is?
This document gives a summary of the activities that our short-term rentals team have had with the licensee in attempts to understand their issue through verifications, audits, investigations, and ultimately the suspension and past the suspension, ongoing compliance issues with the listings.
Okay, thank you. We'll use this then as a framework to review what's in the materials. Let's just start at the first line there with an indication that the premises at 2749 East 8th Avenue is a one-family dwelling. That is known as a result of the occupancy permit, which is included in the materials under page 6, which I think is the 2 pages 2 pages along. I'm looking at an occupancy permit for 2749 East 8th Avenue. The approved occupancy, one family dwelling. That's the approved occupancy throughout the business years 2022 up to 2024?
It is.
Thank you. Then beginning in 2022, March 15th, I understand that at the outset, a short-term rental business license was issued to the licensees on or about that date. Is that right?
That is correct.
Is a copy of that business license included in the materials? Is that it at page 9?
It is.
And that would be for the provision of short-term rental accommodations at the premises.
It is.
Okay. I see further in your notes here on April 28th, an indication from the short-term rentals. That's what STR stands for.
It is, yes.
Thank you. Office clerk phoned and spoke to one of the licensees with respect to submitting verification documents. What are verification documents?
Verification documents are key documents that our staff use to determine whether or not a licensee meets the base requirements of hosting a short-term rental. They include things like identification, secondary documents like hydro bills, tax documents, those types of documents which show us that you are the principal resident at the address.
Okay. Indication under that note for April 28th is that the clerk discussed 2 short-term rental listings found for the address, apparently offering different areas of the home for rent, and one or both showed areas with stoves. I take it that that's included in the notes because that was a concern at the time?
It was a concern because our research showed that the location was a one-family dwelling, and you're only able to be a principal resident of one dwelling, not of any secondary suites or vacant units.
And is the indication of multiple stoves indication of the possibility of multiple dwelling units within the premises?
It is. It can be, yes, or an indication of potential work without permit where somebody has modified their house to create suites without city approval.
And that would interfere then with their ability to obtain a short-term rental business license?
For those particular units, yes.
Okay, thank you. Then moving on to May 12th to May 24th, the entry there indicates that the supporting documentation was received. I'm going to ask you to look at pages 14 and 15 of the materials and just indicate whether those 2 documents, being ICBC address searches, were documents that were submitted by the licensees in response to the request April 28th.
They are, yes.
And I note here that there is an indication that the address for both parties, Jacqueline Fong and Kevin Wong, shows the address of 2748 East Avenue, 2749 East 8th Avenue, sorry, residence effective April 28th, 2022. That appears to be the same day that they were called by the short-term rental clerk.
Yes, Kevin Wong's address change occurred on April 28th, which was the same day as our call, and Jacqueline Fong's address was changed on May 10th, which was both occurred after the verification process began.
And after the business license was issued on March 5th.
Correct.
The next entry in the record at page 4 indicates that on June 29th and July 19th, a property use inspector attended to the premises and made some notes with respect to inspections on both those days. What was the purpose for the attendance of the property use inspector at the premises?
The purpose of the property use inspector was to determine whether or not it appeared as though the licensees were principal residents, as well as determining whether or not the unit met the conditions of the bylaw, including that it was not a secondary suite. Based off the stoves, we had to confirm whether there was suites or work without permit, and whether other safety elements of the bylaw were being complied with.
Okay, and I see the note here that the inspector confirmed the removal of the stoves. I take it at some point there was a direction to remove the stoves And the licensees followed through on that?
I believe the licensees might have removed the stoves prior to the inspection.
Thank you. And the next entry for the 2022 year is August 3rd. Indication that the license was supported with an email from the short-term rental office that included a statement that compliance with the conditions of their license is accepting only one reservation at a time. The associated section of the zoning and development bylaw was included in the email. I take it from that after the inspection from the property use inspector, the short-term rental office was satisfied that the residence was compliant, and so the license was approved.
That is correct.
There was, however, communication from your office, which is in the materials at page 20. Indicating section 11.32.7 of the zoning and development bylaw with say a warning: to be compliant with the conditions of your short-term rental business license, you must only accept one reservation at a time. Why was this highlighted to the licensees in the August 3rd, 2022 communication?
This was highlighted because the team did find two separate listings for two separate areas of the house, and appeared as though concurrent or multiple bookings were occurring within the home at the same time.
Meaning that for the two listings, two separate, say, customers were renting the units at the same time?
Correct.
Okay. And I see here, reading section 11.32.7 of the zoning and development bylaw, it stipulates no more than one booking may be permitted as a short-term rental accommodation in each dwelling unit at one time. So these would all be within the dwelling unit of 2749 East 8th Avenue, correct?
Correct.
But those two were being rented simultaneously.
Correct.
Thank you. So the license then was approved in August 2022, which brings us forward to 2023. Was there a subsequent application for a 2023 business license for short-term rental accommodations?
We processed the 2023 license through a renewal notice, where we sent a notification to the business owner where they were able to pay and renew the license online.
Okay, it was an automatic renewal as long as they paid the licensing fees.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Then June 10th of 2023, indication that a complaint is received. Can you let us know what the nature of that complaint was?
Yeah, we received a complaint stating that the homeowners or the licensees did not live within the premise, and that it no longer met the conditions for a short-term rental license.
And I'm looking at the entry for August 16th, which is next in line. It refers to an audit notification. When the city receives a complaint regarding a short-term rental unit being provided when it's not being used as a principal residence, does that automatically trigger the audit notification process?
It does, yes.
Okay. And can you just explain to the panel what the audit notification or what the audit process looks like?
Certainly. An audit is a more in-depth process of documentation review for the team. We confirm the primary documentation again, determining whether or not they continue to meet the conditions of principal residency, as well as requesting additional information, which includes things like calendars showing us all of the bookings that have occurred in the home and the future bookings that are planned for the unit. Apologies. It can include tax documentations, a reissuance of the ICBC history verification information, any strata or landlord authorization, which in this case wouldn't be required.
I'm looking at page 27 of the materials. This appears to be the audit notification letter of August 16th, 2023, sent to the licensees. And this outlines all of the documentation that's requested and required for the audit process. Is that right?
Yes.
Next entry on page 4 is for September 13th to 21st, indicating that audit documents, including calendars, were received. ICBC address history reports indicate that both license holders changed their address from East 8th Avenue to a location in Port Coquitlam in June 2023, and then back to East 8th Avenue on September 8th, 2023, after they received the August 18th or August 16th audit notification letter. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. I'm going to ask you to refer to pages 41 and 42 of the materials.
Okay.
Again, we have address search results from ICBC for each of the licensees, Mr. Wong at page 41 and Ms. Fong at page 42. This is an indication then, I'm looking at the address history, that effective for both of them, the residence of each was 2749 East 8th Avenue, effective September 5th, 2023. And below that, an indication that they had changed their address with ICBC to a Lincoln Avenue address in Port Coquitlam, effective June 2023 through to September 5th, 2023. Is that right?
That is correct.
I just want to make sure I'm reading that correctly. Why is that highlighted as a concern in the timeline?
It's a concern because it shows us that the licensees made a purposeful move away from the home, so much so that they changed their address to the Port Coquitlam location and therefore would no longer meet the requirements of being the principal residence of the unit and should not have continued to hold a business license. Through the audit meeting notes, Kevin did describe to staff that they had moved to the address in February, but had not changed their address until June of 2023.
The meeting notes, I understand, were of a meeting with Ms. Hanson on June 7th, 2024?
Correct.
Okay, and that was part of the audit process?
It is part of the audit process.
It's a little bit forward in the timeline, so we'll get to that momentarily. But let's just move on from the September 13th to 21st entry, next entry being November 27th, 2023, indication that the clerk spoke with Kevin Wong, that the notes made by the clerk after that call, the clerk explained the operator cannot accept more than one reservation at a time under the conditions of their STR license, and that the STR office would monitor his file to ensure only one reservation was accepted for the same period. Why was it necessary to again warn Mr. Wong with respect to concurrent or simultaneous reservations at the premises when that was already done back in August 3rd, 2022?
Staff research continued to show that through both listings, reservations were being accepted and appeared as though concurrent or multiple bookings were occurring at the same time based off the number of comments on the Airbnb listings.
So through the audit process and the documents provided by the licensee, including the booking calendars, the clerks were able to determine that simultaneous or concurrent bookings were still occurring, notwithstanding the warning to the licensees in August 2023.
Correct.
So again, we have a verbal warning to that effect.
Yes.
Thank you. And then moving on to December 13th, 2023, the entry there shows that the short-term rental office sent an email notifying the license holder that their license will be held back from renewal during the audit, also requesting further booking calendars, future reservations from October 23rd through to March 24th, March 2024. As well, the email noted that the online photos show a stove and asking for photos to accurately reflect their suite. That email is contained in the materials at page 56. Are you there, Ms. Hicks?
I am.
I'm just going to ask you to explain why that email and those directions were necessary at that point.
Through the multiple contacts that we had with the licensee to date, conversations about the stoves, conversations about the multiple bookings, when staff were reviewing the licenses and the listings, we continued to appear as though they were in non-compliance. Again, with the multiple bookings, as well as the stove in one of the listings continuing to be listed as available as a full kitchen within the unit, which could lead to the licensee having replaced the stove after an inspection occurred, which means they've done work without permit to do the upgraded electrical that's required for that, creating a secondary suite outside of permitting requirements. And we were looking for further bookings to determine whether or not the unit continued to be in non-compliance or if they had come into compliance.
If I can get the issue with the stove correct, it would be that the inspector confirmed the removal of the stoves as of July 2022, but notwithstanding that, the listings for each of the two rentals being offered in the premises continued to show the existence of a stove being offered to customers.
I believe the listing of one of the units continued to show a stove within the listing photos as well as in the description.
Let's move on to 2024. The first issue, or first entry, page 5 for 2024 is for January 29th, 2024. Indication that the short-term rental office sent an email to the license holder notifying them that they do not have a valid short-term rental license to operate, referencing the two active online listings. Further, if they want to resume their audit, to provide the requested calendar bookings. That's at page 54 of the materials.
Yes.
And I see an email sent to the licensee, Mr. Wong, further to the email back from December 2023. What was the purpose of this particular email?
Of January 29th?
Yes.
January 29th was to highlight for the licensee that we had not received the information that had been requested of them, that they continue to operate without a license despite being advised that they did not have approval to do so. And it appeared to be that they continued to allow multiple bookings to occur within their listings.
So as of January 29th, 2024, the say automatic renewal of the business license, as had happened in 2023, was held back for the 2024 business year.
Correct. We held that back in the end of 2023 so that it did not occur in 2024.
But yet, as of January 29th, 2024, both of the units being offered for short-term rental purposes were still listed on the Airbnb site.
Correct.
Purpose of this email then was to advise them of non-compliance in the sense that they didn't have a short-term rental business license permitting them to operate in those with those business activities.
Correct.
And an indication that the city would continue monitoring and enforcement on the short-term rental listings and properties.
That is correct.
With a warning with respect to the prospect of fines or enforcement.
Correct.
Thank you. Moving on then, January 31st entry indicates that calendar bookings from two listings for October 2023 through April 2024 were received. The short-term rental office responded reiterating that there were active listings for this home with no current business license to operate. Believe that is at page 47 of the materials.
Yes, for January 31st.
This is another email to Mr. Wong. Indication again 2 days later, indication from the city that upon review, the following listings continue to be bookable for short-term rental accommodation. And again, another warning with respect to the provision of short-term rental in the 2024 years without a license would result in further enforcement.
That is correct.
I see here that the next entry is for March 26th. This is a property use inspection by property use inspector, Mr. Durkin. What was the purpose of that property use inspection?
The property use inspection was to verify whether the property had done work without permit and reinstalled the stove, or if it had been removed and would therefore be in compliance with it remaining a one-family dwelling.
And I see in the materials of pages 69 to 91 that copies of those photos taken by Mr. Durkin of the premises are included. Is that right?
Yes, they are.
And it's at page 80 that we can see a copy of a photograph. Appears to be a kitchen with a table in the place of where a stove would naturally go in a kitchen. Does that make sense?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so by all appearances, the stove was removed at the time of that inspection.
Yes.
The next entry for 2024 in the timeline is for May 1st, with an indication that calendars between the range of January 2023 through May 2024 were requested, and the listings were specified by URL. Upon review of the submitted calendars, the rentals did not align and were significantly less than the publicly available guest reviews for both listings in February, March, and April of 2024. Can you explain what the significance of that observation is?
Certainly. When comparing the publicly available listings and the reviews that had occurred, it was clear to us that rentals were occurring in both units, and a number of rentals had occurred. Although the calendars that were submitted by the licensee on January 31st were fully blank for those months. It is typical that, bookings occur into the future, that those would not have been blank at the time that they were submitted to us. So we were concerned that they were not accurate when they were submitted to us.
So if I can just maybe summarize that, the concern with respect to the calendars provided and the research done for the January through May period was that, and certainly in 2024, that short-term rentals were continuing?
Correct.
That they were both continuing simultaneously or concurrently with one another?
That is correct.
And that was done by comparing the booking calendars with the customer reviews in each of the listings?
Correct.
And it was also determined that there were discrepancies with respect to the calendar dates that were provided to the city with respect to stays and bookings, and the customer feedback that was listed on the Airbnb sites.
Correct.
Suggests then that those were inherently unreliable to you in terms of determining the extent to which the premises was being used as short-term rental.
That is correct.
The next entry for 2024, June 7th, and we've referred to this earlier, and you referred to some information shared with the city by Mr. Wong. I'll just read that entry. Meeting held by phone with Michelle Hansen leading and Kevin attending, Kevin being Mr. Wong.
That is correct.
At this meeting, the discussion included Mr. Wong noting that the listings were deactivated, although both listings were active. Post-meeting, the STR office sent an email to request further booking calendars, future reservations between January 2024 through December 2024. A deadline of June 11th was given to submit that information. Let's just start with the meeting that was held. You indicated that that Mr. Wong shared some information with respect to the residency in Port Coquitlam. What information was shared with Ms. Hanson at that time?
During the audit meeting with Ms. Hanson, the licensee noted that they had moved into the Port Coquitlam office as early as February, although hadn't changed their address until June of that year. They did describe that a family member was living within the home at the time, in the address in front of you today, but that person was not a licensee, so short-term rentals should have ceased. I think further to that is that the licensee, when asked why calendars were submitted that appeared to be missing information, the licensee did admit that they were missing information and had sent older screenshots of those calendars that were missing information, and described that each listing likely had 10 additional rentals occur between the time that the listings were submitted to us and the meeting that was held. So an additional 20 total reservations.
Okay, let's just maybe refer to the interview notes to highlight what it is that Mr. Wong told Ms. Hanson in that meeting. I understand those interview notes are included in the materials at page 97 through to 107. Of those materials, I'm going to ask you to turn to page 102, please.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to review the notes made during the meeting. MH means Michelle Hanson, is that right?
It does.
And KW means Kevin Wong.
Correct.
And I understand that this was a telephone call meeting, is that right?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, this was a telephone call meeting?
It was a telephone meeting, yes.
The second full entry there from Ms. Hanson indicates a question put to Mr. Wong about the ICBC address history report, indicating that the ICBC address history report submitted indicates that you moved into the 2666 Lincoln property from June 2023 to September 2023, then moved back to the East 8th Avenue property on September 5th, 2023. Do you wish to speak to this? Mr. Wong indicated we just didn't make an adjustment. We were going back and forth. We actually lived there in February. We still have a room over there in Coquitlam. We were living in both houses at the time. Jackie was living there 4 days here, 3 days there, and vice versa. So that wasn't exactly clear. After the notice, we changed it back. After February, we mostly lived there, and now we are here 100%. The indication that about halfway down the page, beginning KW, was that we living in the winter in Coquitlam, then we lived less in Vancouver, but then after the summer we lived in Vancouver more, so we moved the address back. Then after it was back, so we just changed it back. Question by Ms. Hanson, who was living in the Vancouver house when you were in Coquitlam. KW, my younger brother, living in the house because my fourth brother goes to UBC, so it's more convenient for him to live in the Vancouver area. That's the portion of the interview with Mr. Wong indicating that he was resident with the other licensee at the Coquitlam property from February through to September 2023. Thank you. And the indication is that during that time, because it wasn't their principal residence, they weren't entitled to carry on business. Short-term rentals at the state property.
Correct.
And with respect to the entries in the booking calendars, I see on page 103 at the bottom of the page, there's an entry in the interview notes. MH, can you clarify the booking calendars you provided? We requested calendars for both of your listings. Can you explain what information you provided to us? Mr. Wong, the dates, the months that you wanted. Ms. Hanson, is that accurate to your knowledge? Mr. Wong, it might not be accurate. There might be a couple of bookings that are not there. Why would that be, Ms. Hanson? Mr. Wong, took the picture prior, I'm sorry. And would that be a picture of the booking calendar he's referring to?
Correct.
Ms. Hanson, when did you take the picture? I don't recall, a couple of months ago. Question, why would you submit inaccurate information? Mr. Wong, my father is calling me right now. Sorry, we just had listings on our phone, so we submitted the calendar. Ms. Hanson, can you clarify why you submitted the old information? Answer, I don't know. We just had it on our phone and sent it. How many listings are guests' bookings would you say are missing? Mr. Wong, 10 for each listing. Yeah, so maybe 20. So he submitted inaccurate calendars with respect to the bookings at the property.
Correct.
I'm also going to ask you to refer to page 100 of the interview notes.
Okay.
And I see here that there was also a discussion with respect to the concurrent or simultaneous bookings of the two units. Is that right?
There was, yes.
So Ms. Hanson asked some further details of that in the interview.
She did, yes.
And I see about halfway down the page, there's a question from Ms. Hanson. Have you been accepting more than one reservation at a time? Answer from Mr. Wong, no. Then the question, when was the last time? June 3rd, one guest, because it's from previous, because of the notice for one bedroom. The last time you had more than one guest was June 3rd, so earlier this week. So we're referring to the week before the interview. Answer, yeah. But right now it's closed to the one bedroom. Mid-June, it's all nothing. I closed it right. Even though it's closed, I didn't activate it. I didn't want to cancel on the guests. The calendar is open right now. I can book it so you're aware. It looks like it's closed down during office hours. What I take from that is that the calendars were still being, or the bookings were still being offered on Airbnb at the time of the interview in June 2024. Is that right?
That is correct. Both were available for booking.
Notwithstanding the fact that they hadn't been issued a 2024 business license.
Correct.
And that concurrent bookings of both of the units, the last time that it had happened was within a week prior to the interview in June 2024.
That is correct.
Notwithstanding multiple previous directions to the license holders not to provide concurrent bookings of both units.
Or prior warnings, yes.
Or prior warnings. Thank you. Moving back to the timeline, the next entry is June 18th. No response to the request for calendar bookings was received by this date. Notice of license suspension sent via email and registered mail. No response, that would be to the, with respect to the deadline of June 11th that was provided, and that's noted under the June 7th entry?
It is, yes. Staff requested updated and future calendar bookings, and that was not received by the time a decision was made for suspension.
Okay. A copy of that email of June 7th, 2024 that's referred to in the entry is included in the materials at page 108. Can you just confirm that for us?
Yes, I can. It is an email from the short-term rentals team describing that further to the meeting, that we were looking for calendars for each of the months from January to June and all of the future reservations that were booked from July to December from both of the units, both of the listings that they had on Airbnb. We also provided screenshots of what those calendars should look like.
Thank you. And then as of June 18th, there was no response to that June 7th email.
Correct.
And it was at that point then that a decision was made by you to not support the reissuance of the 2024 business license. That decision was set out in your letter at June 18th, 2024. That's included in the materials at page 110. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you. And it's that decision not to support the reissuance that we're dealing with by way of review of the business panel today.
It is.
There are some further entries, but maybe what I can just ask you to do is maybe in reference to those and any recent research that you've undertaken on your own, can you tell us what the status of the business activity is at the premises?
Certainly. After the decision for a non-support was made related to the license, staff continued to monitor the listings. The one-bedroom smaller unit continued to be available online, but not bookable. We sent warnings related to that. The secondary two-bedroom unit that previously had the stove within the unit continued to be available for listing for bookings and was unlicensed. So warnings were sent through the new provincial portal. Further on in the summer, on August 30th, we activated takedown requests through the platforms to remove the unlicensed listings. At the development of this package, we continued to check again, and the smaller unit, the one bedroom, was available for a 30-plus day rental, and the two-bedroom unit was available for nightly rentals. When you look at the reviews from individuals, it's clear that throughout the summer, bookings continue to happen. And through Airbnb, you can see that under those reviews, it generally gives a brief description of how long individuals stayed. It'll say stayed a couple of nights, stayed a few days, stayed 2 days. So both units continue to be used for short-term purposes. Checking yesterday, I was able to confirm that the two-bedroom unit continues to be available for short-term rental purposes, while the one-bedroom is currently still listed but unavailable. The one-bedroom unit has received 10 reviews since June, and the two-bedroom unit has received 11 reviews since June.
With respect to the unit being offered for 30-day rentals, is a business license required?
Since October 8th, the zoning bylaw has been amended where any listing that is less than 90 consecutive days is also considered a principal or short-term rental, which is in line with the provincial regulations. So moving forward, that would require a short-term rental license. 90 and beyond days would be considered a long-term rental license.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you for all that information. And right now what we'll do is, so panel members, if you have questions for this witness, please place yourself on the queue and you can ask those questions now. I will throw myself up there then. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate all the information. There's a lot of it in there for sure. A couple of clarifying questions I was hoping you get. So it was clear that this residence has not had a short-term rental license for some time. Can you just confirm exactly the dates they have had a license and for how long they haven't? I know in January you said they haven't, but can you give me the exact dates?
Certainly, from March 15th, 2022 until December 31st, 2023.
And since December 2023, there has been no license.
Correct.
Okay. I had one more question down here and I can't find it on my notes. Give me 1 second. How many opportunities were given to the licensees with regards to providing documentation for compliance? I would assume that at some point in December, I know it says in the timeline, talks about the January date. Sorry, let me just go through. Talks about the January 29th date and the email that was sent, et cetera. But how many times do you figure your office had contact with the licensees with regards to the ability to provide the documentation needed, provide the calendars in order to comply with the requests from the city in order to obtain a business license?
Give me a moment to go through the notes.
Sure.
I could look at telling that. I can tell you that there were a minimum 4 times where we had direct conversations or communication with the applicant about not taking concurrent bookings prior to January. In terms of requesting documentation, it's likely 4 times throughout 2023 at minimum that we were looking for documentation.
Okay, and at all those times, it was the city that reached out to the licensees. At any time, did the licensee reach out to the city to provide clarification?
From the information that I've reviewed, it appeared to be that we only received information after additional prompts.
Okay, so there was no initiation by the licensee.
It did not appear to be.
Okay, I think that's all my questions for now. Thank you. Since there's no other questions from other panel members, does the applicant have any questions for the witness?
Hi.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So on my listings, were you guys aware that we made initiative of the bookings to actually cancel? We canceled like quite a few bookings in June and July on both sides of the bookings, just to satisfy the requirements of not having Airbnb taking place in the house. And also so at the property, when Jackie was pregnant in 2023, we were in Coquitlam with her father-in-law because her father-in-law is over in Coquitlam. So we're staying there for 2 nights, 3 nights. But that's not the majority. Most of the time we're staying here in Vancouver. I would say 99% time of this, we have this property since 2022 till now, and we've been living here 100%. I mean, we have like video footages from the car, from the cameras in the house that we come home every night to Vancouver. What set this in motion for not having principal resident is probably because maybe someone think that we were not living here, but we have proof to show that we come home every day. I mean, I park my car at the back of the house, so I mean, I come home every night to this house. So this is a prime resident. I do admit that there's been submitting of documents that's not correct. Apologize for that. And having 2 listings before, I was kind of unclear what was happening. So the 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, I'm aware after that you could only have 1 listing, 1 family living there at the house at one time. We can have 2 listings, but only 1 family living at the house at one time. So I'm aware of that now. So that's 1 bedroom. It's been since since let's see here. So September to now, we haven't had any listings. And the one bedroom is closed. It's one bedroom. We're not having any listings. The two bedroom is so listed out. We've been waiting for a couple months now, and there's no answer from the city. We have a lot of mortgages paid for and everything. We have so many bills, and we just cannot just wait for months on end to see if we can get approval for the short-term business license. So but yeah, it's just right. The living in Coquitlam, that was inaccurate. It was just 2-3 days, and actually changing the ICBC, like the license back to Vancouver, that was actually a bit delayed. We actually moved back way before that. My daughter is born in August in the Vancouver house. We were living here most of the time. It was just a couple of times we were living a week living in Vancouver or in Coquitlam because her father was sick, and also she just wants to stay with her dad a couple days, 2-3 days. But basically for myself, I live here every day. I sleep here every night. So we've been living here the whole time, the majority of the time. All we ask from the city is if we can have opportunity to get the license reinstated, and then we will try to follow all the rules and have just one listing. The one bedroom is going to be, we're going to be, once the decision's being made, we can deactivate this one bedroom, just have the 2 bedroom. Of course, without the stove. Right now, there's no stove, so it's not a full-on kitchen. They can access our upstairs if they, if the tenants want for a kitchen made upstairs, because there's no kitchen downstairs. But yeah, we'll try to follow all the rules and be compliant with the city.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wong. I appreciate you're battling through it sounds like a pretty nasty cold there. Do you have any specific questions for Sarah Hicks from the city, from this witness specifically?
Yes. I just want to ask the team, Miss Hicks and the team. They've mentioned that there was messages on Airbnb platform that we messaged back and forth with a guest. Is this a privacy breach? Like, can they access all that information of messages and like bookings on and stuff like this? Is, I mean, I understand they're auditing our Airbnb listing. We understand that, but I mean, going through messages and stuff like that, I find that that's a privacy. That's against the privacy for our guests and for ourselves and stuff like that. So, because they mentioned that, we said there, we mentioned about access a kitchen. I mean, they can access upstairs our kitchen. We do have that upstairs. Their door is able to be open. It's not key lock. It's just one of those, you can actually unlock it and they can come upstairs. So we do have a kitchen upstairs, but we don't have a kitchen right now. And, based on, yes, the audit that the inspector came in, there is no stove, right? So we took that out, and it wasn't prior to the inspection. It was taken out a long time ago. The picture that we had before wasn't accurate. That's probably why they think that, we have the stove, but we don't. When we took that out now, we don't have that. So
Ms. Hicks, are you able to answer his question regarding the communications that you were referring to?
Yes, certainly. Staff do not have access to messages that go back and forth between a host or a licensee and their guests. What I was referencing were the publicly available reviews that are on the Airbnb listings.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So it's the online reviews that are accessible to everyone to see whether or not
Correct.
they too may want to stay there based on previous guests' experiences.
Correct.
Mr. Wong, does that satisfy your answer with regards to the messaging that you were discussing?
Yes. And then also like they were doing audits. They were going to the file and seeing when it's open, closed, and stuff. That's also a privacy breach. It's not just checking on the platform. When they're auditing, they're going deep into it, and actually it's a privacy, I think, for the Airbnb platform, because this information is still private for a guest, bookings and stuff like that. So I just want to make a note of this, and you know um but yeah, there's some things we the listings, we do try to be compliant and try to, there's some parts, yes, we're open, we apologize, we admit that there's, the 2 bedroom is still open. I mean, I agree with that, and we apologize, but when it comes to trying to be compliant, we do try. We try to be compliant. For a couple months, we closed all the Airbnbs. We canceled the bookings for 2 months. Since June, we closed off the 1 bedroom and the 2 bedroom listings. There was a whole bunch of listings we call Airbnb. We told them we had to cancel it all due to city compliance, so we did try, to cancel them, and they were canceled. And then after the 1 bedroom, it was a long term, 30 days after. So
Okay, thank you. Maybe Ms. Hicks, could you? There was a question in there with regards to the privacy of this of an individual who's running a short-term rental business, and I'm wondering if maybe if I can just rephrase his question a little bit. But I think it would be important for you to answer is how what information does the city look at, and is it all publicly available, or do you have to go through the host Airbnb to get that?
Certainly. We do not have access to internal data from Airbnb. The information that we are looking at, for this listing was publicly available information provided by the applicant. We do use a company called Host Compliance. They look and they provide us a snapshot of publicly available information. So whatever's listed online, and that system is able to show us when a listing became active, when it might have come down, when it's come back up. And through that, we're able to help determine if individuals, not speaking to this case, where individuals may be taking a listing down during Monday to Friday working hours and coming back up on evenings and weekends, so that we can do targeted work on pulling them in for audits. But all of that information received is publicly available. And then additional information is received from applicants.
Okay, I appreciate that. Mr. Wong, hopefully that answers the other question you had. And this is sort of your one time to ask any other questions. And then if you have any other comments, we can move on to those. But if you have any additional questions, now's your sort of one and only time to do that.
yes, yeah. Thank you for having this meeting today at the city. We appreciate this, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak. So if going forward, is there any way we can get the license reinstated? If maybe if we can have like I don't know, any limitations, but regardless, if we can get the license reinstated, and we will try our best to we'll try our best to follow all the rules. We've been operating since 2022. And we treat this as seriously, and we
I think a license reinstatement question is something
Yes.
that isn't specifically pertinent to the material at hand and the witness's evidence that was provided to the panel. I think And maybe I'll look over towards our legal counsel here, and maybe he can provide some update. But my understanding is that we should be focused on the evidence at hand and not how this applicant may potentially regain a license.
Yes, thank you. This is the opportunity to ask questions of the city's witness, Ms. Hicks. I know that we've gone off that path somewhat, allowing the licensee to make some submissions. What I'm going to suggest is this: is if nobody has any questions for Ms. Hicks, that we excuse her, that we take into account the submissions that have been made by Mr. Wong already in the course of this hearing, and give him a further opportunity to expand upon that in his own submission.
Okay, thank you for that. So, Mr. Wong, I think any sort of discussions you want to have with regards to reinstatement of a license have to take place at a later time. We want to make sure we focus on the evidence at hand and the discussion here of whether or not to uphold the refusal of the 2024 business license. If you have no more questions for Ms. Hicks, we will let her go, but you've already given some opening remarks and opening submissions. Do you have anything else to add? And do you have any witnesses that you want to bring forward?
We don't have witnesses today. The only witness I would have, just to prove that living here is my neighbor right next door. So,
okay. But no witnesses to provide testimony at this point.
No.
Okay. Since that's the case, we'll go into closing submissions. So we'll now move to closing submissions by City's Council.
Thank you. And I will be brief. The circumstances here is that through an audit and through an investigation, it was determined that there was a long-standing pattern of non-compliance by the licensees with respect to the regulations that have been established by council for property owners to conduct business of short-term rentals. And that pattern of non-compliance led the chief license inspector to conclude that it wasn't appropriate to reissue the 2024 business license. Her position remains today that it would be inappropriate for council to do so, given that that pattern of non-compliance. We've heard that there have been multiple warnings, and we've seen evidence of those in the materials, indicating that concurrent bookings were not permitted, yet they still continued. Seen multiple warnings with respect to not carrying on short-term rental activities in 2024, yet they continued. We've heard from Mr. Wong today, in his words, that as of September to now, there has been no business activities, which I think we can take from that is that there have been a series of short-term rentals being offered at the premises up to September of this year. Indicates that they will do their best to comply, but I don't know that this panel can have any faith in that, given that there has been non-compliance in the face of repeated communications and efforts by city staff to have them comply with the terms of the regulations. I'm going to say that it would be inappropriate to issue a business license. I think it would be an affront to lawful short-term rental business license holders to allow them to carry on their business activities at the premises and really take up a vast amount of city resources when there are other people there who are in our community doing their best to abide by the regulations, complying with the regulations to keep our communities both of the character that we want them to be and provide a long-term housing stock. Those are the principal objectives of the. So I'm going to suggest that this council not issue a 2024 business.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. We'll now move to closing submissions by the licensee. So, Mr. Wong, this is your opportunity to provide some closing comments and submissions to the panel with regards to the evidence at hand here.
No, there's so whichever decision the city decides is we'll respect it, and yeah, I guess we'll just wait and see if we get a reinstated the business license, and if we have another chance in getting a business license. But no, there's no other comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wong. So at this point, we'll open it up for discussion. We'll move to discussion by the panel. So panel members, if you'd like to make any remarks, please place yourself on the speaker's queue. Councillor Carr, go ahead.
Yes, just to reflect upon the evidence that we've heard. My conclusions around the evidence are, first of all, that the city gave lots of opportunities for the hosts to be in compliance. Lots of opportunities. I really appreciate that in terms of staff's diligence. Secondly, there is evidence that is clear to me of multiple simultaneous bookings when the license was for only one unit. Third, there were also evidence of simultaneous multiple bookings this year when the person was without a license. I'm having, I really take into consideration the recommendation of our city lawyer. It seems to me that that there has been every opportunity offered for these hosts to be in compliance over a fair degree of time, and that hasn't happened.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Klassen, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, like Councillor Carr, I think the evidence has been well presented. It does not merit a reinstatement, but the applicant, of course, is expressing some contrition, I imagine, and as well indicating that they'd like to try and move forward and be in compliance. But I would imagine that would have to come upon the request or an application for a new license. But the patterns of trying to the back and forth clearly between the licensing department here and the applicant is an indication that they were not in compliance earlier. So I would imagine they're going to have to try and start with a clean slate, but not with a reinstatement of their 2024 license from my standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Klassen. I'll just advance myself here. I don't need to cede the chair, do I, for this? I don't think so. Yeah, I agree with both Councillor Carr and Councillor Klassen that I think there is fairly overwhelming evidence that the licensees here have been non-compliant. I think what concerns me is that not only was there a reluctance to provide documentation when requested, there's inconsistencies in responses when you look at the evidence. When there is clearly overwhelming evidence that the business has been operating without a license since January, and not just offering a booking or two, but I quickly, it took me about 30 seconds to find the listing online here, and when you go through, there's, I think I counted 35 comments, reviews between January and September when this short-term rental did not was operating without a license. Not everyone makes a review, so how many other stays are without reviews? And as Sarah Hicks mentioned, many of them talk about things like weekend getaway or 4-day getaway. I personally don't agree with all of the short-term rental rules that the city has, but that's not what we're here today for. We're here to determine whether or not there's been compliance and whether or not a license should be issued. I put a test of reasonableness here. And what would a reasonable person do when the city phones you up and says you're not compliant? We're thinking about not issuing you a business license. I think a reasonable person would do everything they can to make sure that they're in compliance if they want to run a legitimate business, provide the documentation required, not try and circumvent the rules. And I see for what appears to be at least 9 or 10 months here, where that is happening, and there hasn't been an openness to try and get compliance with the city regulations. So I'm in agreement with the city licensing inspector that we should not be issuing a license here. Thank you. Councilor Carr, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Chair, I wonder if we could have a brief recess in order to prepare a motion.
Certainly. I think a recess is a good idea. Let's 5 minutes.
I think that's fine.
Okay, 5-minute recess, please. Okay, so we'll now have a decision by the business license hearing panel. Would someone like to move a motion?
Chair, I have moved a motion, as you see on the screen here, that the business license hearing panel uphold the decision of the chief license inspector, not support the issuance of the business license to the licensees for short-term rental accommodation located at 2749 East 8th Avenue on the basis of the totality of the evidence provided to the panel for this hearing.
And is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Carr, and Councillor Carr, I see you're on the queue. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chair. So I've already given my summary comments earlier, but just to be very clear, the evidence for me is very overwhelmingly clear that that the applicants here did not have a valid license this year, and still there were bookings and evidence of bookings that were taking place. And number two, there were multiple bookings when the license was, when it was in place, was for one booking only. So the fact that there were multiple bookings this year and in previous years is in contravention to the license, which is not good for a license holder. I also wanted to add that I was suspect around the primary residence for the complete time of bookings. The evidence is not clear to me that that the license holders were full-time there. There was lots of different, we were there 5 days a week. We were there all the time for some months in Coquitlam. And so based on those three reasons, I will be seconding this motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carr. Seeing no one else in the queue, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor? We'll do a recorded vote. All right. Let's take us to a voting panel. I just managed to get myself in there. Okay, so the motion carries unanimously. And that will conclude. Motion to adjourn by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Klassen. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.